Hi there, welcome to Homekeepers. Friend, come right on in. Hope you have time to grab a cup of tea and just hang out with us for the next few minutes. It's such a privilege on our end to be with you. And let me say at the top of the program, you know, we give you the opportunity to email us for recipes and so forth. And we love reading your little comments, you know. It means so much. Can't always respond to them, but just want you to know that we read them and really appreciate the encouragement. Be a lonely life without encouragement, wouldn't it? So thank you for that. Now, the last few programs you have, I hope, enjoyed. I'm sure you have Dr. Grady McMurtry. And we talked about a number of things, but today we're going back to the original subject that drew me to Dr. McMurtry, and that is creationism. Because you're not going to get it in the public schools, and it's very important that it comes from the home. So we're going to offer this book, which we offered months ago, and hundreds of you have this book. I can't recommend it highly enough for your children to know actually how this world began. And it's by Dr. McMurtry, our guest, Creation, Our Worldview. And we want you to have this and to be able for your family members to understand that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So we'll put that information up for you on the screen. That's $20 plus some shipping and handling, and we will get it right out to you. And we have a recipe for you today that Sister Stephanie got really excited about. Maybe I better tell them what number to call. I'll let you call them. Stephanie will tell you what number to call if you like to use a credit card.
Well, 1-800-229-0059.
That's good.
That's from memory because they took it away.
Well, we are fixing cabbage and beef soup recipe. We're kind of in a soup mode.
Because it got a little chilly here in Florida. In fact, yesterday I woke up and there was ice on the windshield. So it was chilly.
And if you're seeing this in June, it was...
Sorry.
We made it January. But as soon as you saw the recipe, you got excited.
Yeah, this is like deconstructed cabbage rolls. And I love cabbage rolls. Love them. So this is like deconstructed with a little addition. So I have hamburger here, a pound of hamburger here that I browned up already. I'm going to crank this heat way up so that we can get cooking. If you want to just chop up some parsley for me, I thought that would be a good job for you. Just a little bit. It's just for the top.
Put it on the top. Yeah. Okay.
So I have some kidney beans here that are rinsed and drained and rinsed. And I have some celery.
I would say this is a healthy entree, and there's no reason that these soups cannot be your evening meal.
Oh, yeah. I have beef bouillon here that I kind of melted down. It calls for granules, but we didn't have that. So I
think a grilled cheese sandwich would be good with this.
Okay, yes.
Then you got your dinner.
This is going to be my lunch today, so I'm excited.
Okay,
we have a can of diced tomatoes. And put those right in there.
I would say rather economical.
Economical and yummy. This is going to be so good. Okay, I have garlic powder, garlic salt, and pepper that I'm going to... You're ready with the scooper already, and I don't even have the cabbage in here.
Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm anxious.
Okay, garlic salt.
Have you ever heard the term retail therapy?
Oh, yes.
Well, it was kind of new to me. I had a epiphany.
Yes.
Was shopping at if you can believe this, a high-end flea market, if there's such a thing.
Sure, yeah.
And all my friends, I was with 4 other friends, they were buying things, not stupid, but so I'm looking and looking, and I'm
cabbage.
Cabbage. I'm looking at this purse, and this still small voice said to me, "Yeah, you really need another black purse." I was so convicted. I walked out, and I didn't buy it. In fact, I didn't buy anything, and I was so proud.
Good. Here's my retail therapy. I went to Target last night, and I got 4 bottles of Old Spice soap for my husband for free. That's my...
How'd you do that?
I had gift cards from an earlier promotion, and I had coupons, and I walked out actually free plus a $5 gift card for my next shopping trip. To me, that's retail
To
therapy.
me, that sounds complicated.
No, it was super easy.
And that's what he likes.
I don't buy him. He's not like me. I'll kind of do different. He's set Degree, deodorant, Old Spice, Sport, soap. So I always look for those on sale. I look for coupons. I have this cranked up, so.
Yeah.
This needs to cook for a while.
It's obvious that this won't be ready.
Yeah, no,
but,
this needs to cook for quite a while. I need a little more water.
It looks to me like it.
Smell it.
It just looks so delicious. I eat an awful lot of cabbage, actually.
Cabbage is really good for you.
And
there we go.
so this is another way to use it. I use it.
And cabbage is economical.
I use it often for my base of a salad instead of like lettuce. So.
Yeah, I had a coleslaw salad yesterday for lunch. It was really, really good.
Well, does this have all the ingredients of your cabbage
Well, actually,
rolls?
it has more.
Because we gave a lot of those recipes out.
Yeah, my cabbage rolls only has onions, hamburger, rice, and cabbage, and then tomatoes and tomato sauce. So
It's got a lot of that.
Yeah, it's like a deconstructed with a little extra, like the kidney beans are great to add to it.
Now, if you fix something like this, would your family go for it?
Oh yeah,
For an evening
sure.
meal? Sure.
Only during the winter though. My husband only likes soup during the winter. You know, he works outside though, and then you know he works outside and he eats all day. The last thing he wants to come home to is hot soup.
Cup of hot soup. Yeah.
Well, do you want to taste the flavoring at least?
Yeah.
The scooper. You can taste.
But
taste.
I think we can all agree that this is going to be really good. Really
Put
good.
a little parsley on it just because you cut.
Yeah, because the recipe calls
for it,
and
you that was your hard job for the.
Yeah.
It's going to be good, right?
It's going to be great because already the seasonings are coming together.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything
Once that cabbage is cooked, it's going to be good. It needs to be a slow simmer.
Cabbage and beef soup recipe. So if you want it, email us. That's coming up on your screen, or write to us. We'll get it right out to you. And I've noticed in our mail that people are loving the soup recipes. So again, this is cabbage and beef soup, and we will get it right out to you. Now stay, and if you haven't met him, Dr. McMurtry.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
Well, you regular folks know that Dr. McMurtry has been with us since the beginning of the week, and you've seen him when we did a full week on creationism. And so I had planned today that we would kind of recap everything that we've done this week, but guess what? Every single day we ran out of time. And I hope it just whetted your appetite enough to get the things that we have offered you from his ministry so you could get the full picture. So instead of recap, I want to start out what's new in the whole creationism movement, because I see things in the paper every once in a while and things that are being discovered that, I go back to this. I'm sure you saw the movie Expelled.
Yes,
Yeah.
I used to saw it.
Yeah. I'll never, ever forget that last scene with Ben Stein.
Yes,
And Richard Dawkins, who is the #1 evolutionist, I guess, and they were talking about how everything goes back to one cell. Finally, they said, he settled on that. And Ben Stein said, and where did that cell come from? And our #1 evolutionist says, we don't know.
Well, actually, I watched that the first week it came out in the movie theater, and then I sold the DVD later. But when I looked at that in the theater and got to that last scene with Richard Dawkins, I practically slid right out of my chair. He was in the movie twice.
Yeah.
But at the end there, and Ben Stein was not trying to manipulate him. But what was really funny to me was Dawkins is today the most staunch militant atheist in the world. However, at the end of the movie, when Ben Stein talks about where that living cell came from, actually he then came back and resurrected a 60-year-old concept that goes back to Francis Crick and that ilk in the 1950s of what's called transpermia or panspermia, that the seeds of life are everywhere in the universe, transported here by an alien, dropped off from an alien spaceship. They went home to read the newspaper. They haven't come back to check the experiment out yet. I mean, that's really what he endorsed.
That's really easy to believe.
How desperate, how desperate an evolutionist has to be to say, I know evolution did not occur on Earth. Therefore, since I know it's true, it must have happened someplace else and was brought here by an unknown alien civilization. Because that's all they're doing is they're pushing evolution that they can prove and know cannot occur on Earth.
Can't.
Pushing it to a place it cannot be observed, tested, or verified, so that they can maintain their religious faith in evolution, because evolution is not science, it's a religion.
Yeah, and that movie, it's called Expelled. You can probably find it.
Easily available today.
Very, but it really started out because professors were being fired and everything in major universities because they happen to believe in creationism.
Exactly.
And in my lifetime, I've seen things that, for someone like myself who knows so little about it, and I remember when the genome was discovered. I think I went on the air that day and said, I just got to commend the atheists, because it takes a whole lot more faith to believe this just happened than it had an intelligent designer.
Even the people who helped to come up with, and remember, we don't know what the DNA says, we just know what the letters are in the alphabet. And we know the string of the alphabet.
Right.
But we still today are still looking at where are the sentences and the paragraphs and the punctuation marks and everything like that. But what's really intriguing, and you wanted to know about what's new.
Yes.
Well, of course, the Human Genome Project was completed, well over 10 years ago now.
Right.
The latest information is, number one, that we now know that there are 3 levels of intelligence in the DNA molecule. There's the information that's on the molecule to begin with, and there's the epigenetic information, which actually opens and closes the DNA, allowing it to be read and used and so forth. And now we know that there's actually a 3rd level of intelligence on top of that, because try this one out.
This is all from the DNA.
This is all from the DNA. We now know that the characters, the A, B, C, D, okay? We know the string, but we now know that you can actually read the same sentence 2 different ways. Or that the same words are in that one string, but you can make different sentences out of it by punctuating it differently and so forth. Now, how great a mind does it take to put the DNA molecule to start with, which is the most complex molecule in the universe, and then have a 2nd level of intelligence that controls that intelligence, and then a 3rd level of intelligence that allows you to read. Now, for instance, if you were to read my book, and you're reading sentences in my book, okay? And you got 2 different messages from the same sentence, using the same words, but 2 totally different messages. And that's what we have now found out. And I really, really hate to tell you this, but we now know from the Human Genome Project's completion that we are losing 1 to 2% of our genetic information per generation. We are going downhill, and we're going downhill fast.
Why?
Well, it's called the 2nd law of thermodynamics, but just to make it, I don't know.
Can you make it so I can understand it?
That's right, and it's also called information theory. But what it means is this. You know, I have defeated major evolutionists, 2 major evolutionists in debates myself. Because what happens in genetics, anybody can understand it, a child can understand it. We copy the previously existing information, pass it on into the next generation in new combinations, which is why we say, oh, he's got his father's eyes, his mother's chin, or something like that. New combinations of the same information, correct? Now, in copying, you have only 2 possibilities. You can either copy perfectly, in which case there is no change, or you can copy imperfectly. That's called a mutation.
Is a perfect copy a clone?
No. I'm just talking about copying the information. This goes on in your cells every day and so forth.
Oh, okay.
It goes on in how you have children. You're copying the male and female information, and you're passing it on, right? So you can only copy perfectly, in which case there's no change, or imperfectly. Now, that's called a mutation. The word mutation in science means copying error. Copying error. Now, we were created perfect by God 6,000 years ago. the genetic information was perfect. But as soon as human sin occurred, the entire universe became imperfect, as Paul talks about.
Change the DNA.
And what happens is, now we start getting copying errors, copying mistakes in the DNA. Now, initially, those mistakes were very small, and they dispersed throughout and so forth. But what happens? It's like a snowball rolling downhill. Once you have mistakes, they are never corrected.
Boy, we've got them now.
And you get more mistakes. And then the number of mistakes starts to get larger and larger, and you get more and more mistakes because you're copying mistaken information again with a second potential for
What's the end
errors.
result?
Today, it's the only two words you need to defeat an evolution is genetic entropy. The word entropy means decay of information. And you have great-grandchildren. Now, I hate to tell you this, but you're great-grandchildren because you had children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, right? 3 generations? We're losing 1 to 2% of information per generation. So your great-grandchildren have 3
Good
to
and
6.
bad information?
No good, no good. They have
Using
3
the
to
good.
6% less useful information than you did.
And the result?
This includes the genes for intelligence.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask
Your
you.
great-grandparents were literally more intelligent.
Smarter, yeah.
And they had a faster reaction time. We know that comparing results from
Oh,
over
this is
150 years ago.
discouraging.
Well, I know it is, but it's a scientific proof the Lord's coming back soon. I didn't say when, I just said soon. Because we know there's going to be people here to meet him, correct?
Yeah.
But if this loss of information continues because of copying errors, eventually we would become extinct because we would become sterile. And once you become sterile, you become extinct. And so this would not take many, many more generations. Think about it for a second. You are approximately the 250th copy since the original. Now, what happens when you copy? Nothing is as good as the original. Copying only makes things worse, never better. We are accumulating errors and then adding to that, so it's a snowball.
Can we reverse it?
No.
Oh, we got to move along.
I understand that, but you just asked what was new in creation. We
That's
can talk about Pluto, too, if you
Now,
like.
you do mention in here climate change.
Yes, I have a large section on the fact that global warming, global cooling, climate change are not caused by humans, that God's in charge of the weather, there's nothing we can do to change it, and that the cooling, and we have been cooling now for 19 years, not warming, that's a lie, but the cooling that we've been experiencing for the last 19 years has a couple of interesting aspects to it. But we have been cooling. It has nothing to do with fossil fuel use. It has nothing to do with carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide's good, not bad. We need it. This is what plants use to make food, for instance, or trees to make wood for timber. And the fact of the matter is we ought to be releasing as much carbon dioxide as we could possibly release as long as it's for a useful purpose. And I did say for a useful purpose, because the plants would simply absorb it.
Isn't this all... Well, I think there's an agenda behind
there's an agenda.
To destroy industrialism and capitalism.
It's to destroy Christian capitalism.
Right, and you talk about taxes. I mean, if people really knew the taxes that have been attached to Obamacare, you haven't seen anything yet.
Well, but not only that, but energy production, cutting down and closing the coal industry. There was this, well, I don't want to date this material, but the fact of the matter is that environmental terrorists, and our president's one of them, they are, in fact, trying to use environmental terrorism to then promote and establish socialism and communism. That applies applies as much to Obamacare as energy policy as to anything else.
Now, first of all, they talk about all these scientists have come to a consensus. That's not the way science works, is it?
No, I write about that. There's absolutely no such thing as consensus science.
Right, and even I figured that out.
And if you practice consensus science, it's the worst kind of science you could practice.
Of course.
It stifles debate, it stifles useful research, it stifles new
discoveries.
Truth. Well, it stifles truth, but new discoveries, new truths are being stifled. It is holding us back.
Isn't the basis for this great need of climate change when... Really, I almost fell off the couch when I heard our president say that ISIS is a result of climate change.
Well, an irrational statement. It's an irrational statement.
Yeah, but haven't they gotten this from computer models, and how accurate could that possibly be?
First of all, we all know that computer models are absolutely inherently inaccurate. Garbage in, garbage out. You get what you want.
What you put in there.
You program it to give you what you want. But the fact of the matter is that when we take a look at things historically, which is what we should be looking, history is real data. Computer models are useless. If you prove something in a computer model, it proves absolutely nothing.
Right.
Because you simply got the results you programmed it to give you. Okay? It's like poll reviews. But when we look at real data, what has happened? Well, we came out of the little ice age in 1895. If we came out of the little ice age, wouldn't you expect it to be a little warmer right now? But since the little ice age, we had a warming trend to the 30s, a cooling trend to the 50s, a warming trend to the 70s, and a cooling trend today. But the environmental terrorists have used it exactly the opposite way. Do you remember in the 1970s, the oil embargo time of life that we had? They were talking about how we were going into the next ice age when in fact the Earth had been warming for 25 years. There was a cooling trend from the 30s to the early 50s, and they were talking about the new ice age kind of things, but nobody was concerned about it because we had another little thing that was taking our time called World War II.
Yeah, that is something that tends to...
But in the 70s, they were literally talking about how we were going into the next ice age and we were all going to die.
Well, it's been probably 15 years ago where this major Hollywood star was saying that the oceans would be totally gone in 10 years, so that's been 15. But just before I came downstairs, I was looking on the computer, and Harrison Ford was saying that if we don't get into this climate change thing, human beings will be extinct.
Again, we're all going to die. But see, what they're doing, global warming, global cooling, climate change, and so forth, the environmental terrorist movement as a whole, the whole green movement, is again an anti-God, anti-Bible, anti-Christian movement to get socialism and communism into our culture. Because what are they doing? They're saying that this is a big problem, which it is not. We'd be better off if the earth were warming, because we'd be able to grow crops at further north and further south, and we'd have more rain, so we'd have more arable land, and actually if the earth were warming, it would be good. But the fact of the matter is they want to do this because they're saying God's not in control, only government can control this. You've got to let government decide what to do with resources. But the Bible says you and I are held individually accountable for the resources that God has given to us, that government is not the solution.
We've got just about a minute and a half or so left, but when it says, in the beginning, God created, that sets the stage for everything.
Well, and in Hebrew, it actually says at the beginning. The first word in the Hebrew Bible, Bereshit, actually means at the beginning. It's specific. God started time at the beginning. In's a poetic thing. But at the beginning, God created the heavens, the space, and then the earth, which is the proper sequence. You can't record it without time. You don't have a place to put the earth if you don't make space first. So it's in the perfect creation order.
Okay, now, what about when they're throwing at us figures like, oh, that planet's billions of years old? And
they don't have a clue.
Says who?
They don't have a clue. The fact of the matter is...
You would have to pull that out of a hat.
Well, they do, so to speak. It's their religion.
Yeah.
It has to be billions of years old because that's what their religion requires. Now, simply because something is 10 billion light years away doesn't make it 10 billion years old. We know the speed of light can be changed. The speed of light is not a constant as was taught in school. We've been able to accelerate it. We've been able to decelerate it. Some evolutionists claim to have stopped it and started it again. And I'm quoting them. I'm not saying it. They are. And so we know that the speed of light is not a true constant. We've never been anywhere else outside of our solar system to measure it. We don't know how fast it is someplace else. In my book, I list 8 ways in which you can have something 13.82 billion light years away in distance and only be 6,000 years old in time.
Wow, there's just really no end to the discussions we could have on this.
You're right. You're right.
We are really out of time, but just quickly, what kind of progress is being made in really teaching creationism?
Well, we're gaining ground as a percentage. But the problem is that, of course, there are gradually more evolutionists than we can convert.
Yeah.
But there are evolutionists that are converting to creationism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very important.
We're spreading out the tent.
Thank you.
God bless.
What a privilege to
Blessings
have
to
you again. And you stay with me. I have a couple things to say before we have to say goodbye.
Arthelene would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground the last few programs with Dr. McMurtry, talking about a creationist view of marriage and the feasts of the Old Testament, and then to end up on the subject of creation, which is so vitally important. Let me remind you again, we offer you this book by Dr. McMurtry, Creation, Our Worldview. That's for a gift to the program of $20 plus a couple dollars for shipping and handling. If you write to us, you can write to us at Homekeepers, Post Office Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Or if you'd like to use your credit card, we can accommodate that at 1-800-229-0059. We have sent out hundreds and hundreds of these books so far, and if you had not ordered one before, you might want to order one now. I think the importance of what Dr. McMurtry has to say, and also the entire center of his ministry on the subject of creationism, is so important. And I remember hearing a senator really take to task a Supreme Court justice candidate, trying to find out if he believed in evolution or not. And I thought, what in the world has this nation come to? Because when you really think about it, the nation has accepted the theory, remember it's a theory, it's not a fact, theory of evolution, and that is obviously the reason for just the slippery slope that we're on, because if you just happened, why would you have very much value? That's the reason for abortion, because it's not important, you just happened. And we've got young people today and people living together without being married and all that, like animals, just kind of hook up because you just happen. But if you believe that a holy God made you, it changes absolutely everything. Think about it. And I hope you'll join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.